We now have the pleasure of chatting with Lula Stumpf, who was born and raised in Beavertown and still lives in Beavertown and has lots of recollections of Beavertown. And let us turn to you now, Lula, and would you share with us when you were born?
July the 7th, 1900.
July the 7th, 1900. And you were born right here in Beavertown?
Yes.
On Center Street?
Yes.
And who were your parents?
George T. and Ada Barsock Sailor.
Mm-hmm. And when did you start the school?
When I was 6.
Right here in the Beavertown
Mm-hmm.
Academy?
Yes, where the borough building is now.
Right. And you would have been 6 years old then?
Yes.
And how far did you go in school?
I graduated with a 3-year high school. We had the high school then up above where the bank is now, upstairs.
That's where Mr. and Mrs. Bailey had their restaurant.
Yes.
Yes. Up above that,
yes,
back in the early 1900s, was the Beavertown High School.
1918.
Mm-hmm. Is that when you graduated?
Yes.
The class of 1918?
Yes.
3 years of high school?
Yes, that's all they had that time, 3 years.
How did they distinguish their classes? Did they have a freshman, a sophomore, and a junior?
No, freshman and junior and senior. They didn't have sophomore.
Uh-huh. So who was in your class of 1918?
Lucille Bausch Wagner.
Right.
Mabel Heimbach Dries.
Right.
Hazel Hedrick Spade.
Mm-hmm.
Florence Hassinger Hedrick. Hattie Gilbert Myers. Charles Wetzel, Randall Hassinger, Randall Dries, and Samuel Hedrick, and myself.
Randall Dries. Was that?
There was 11 of us.
Well, there was a Mr. Ramstein, wasn't there?
Yes, John Ramstein. I think he graduated. John Ramstein.
Mm-hmm. Was that Randall Dries the one they called Frog Dries?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
He was, I remember he worked with the state, I believe, during World War II and was always a natty dresser.
And I guess I don't remember.
Now, who were your brothers and sisters?
I had 5 sisters and 7 brothers.
So there was 13 living children.
Yes.
Let's review some of them because that was a very important part of the population of Beavertown in the 1900s. Who was the oldest child?
My oldest sister was Harriet. She was married to Gordon Ray. They lived at Hagerstown, and then they moved back to Shindle.
Mm-hmm.
She had 4 children, 4 sons. And my next sister was Molly Goss. She lived at Lewistown. She had 9 children. 3 died in infancy, but she raised 6.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a brother, Braid. He lived in Ohio. He had 2 boys. Then my next sister was Minnie. She was married to Bill Heffley. She had a daughter, Lula Klein.
Mm-hmm.
And the next was Florence. She was married to Charles Wagner. They lived at Wagner. She had 5 daughters. 3 died young. 2 died young, and she raised 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a brother, George. He died in Ohio with diphtheria at the age of 12. And I had another brother that died when he was 2 with pneumonia. And then I had a sister, Ada. And then 4 brothers, William, Hurley, Melvin, and Charles. And then I was the last one.
You were the baby of the family, born in 1900.
I was 8 years later than my youngest brother, Charles.
Mm-hmm. Well, you graduated from high school then in 1918. Let me just sort of get on a different track for a moment. Your father was William. Was your father William or a brother?
George. My brother, William.
Williamson. He was the first person to be in charge of our dynamo, our electric plant here in Beavertown.
Yes.
And that, in fact, I guess he stayed on that job until it was sold out to PP&L, or?
No, Mr. Ramstein was working there for a while. William Ramstein.
Uh-huh.
John Ramstein's dad.
Uh-huh.
He worked there for a while.
What, before your dad or after your dad?
No, my dad didn't work there. It was my brother.
I'm sorry, your brother, yes.
Yeah.
Your brother, William.
My dad lived over there. He was caretaker for the tannery.
Right, for the Isabella Steam Tannery,
Yeah.
which we have pictures in our Historical Society booklet.
Mm-hmm.
And your father was the caretaker of the Isabella Steam Tannery.
Yes.
Then your brother William, he attended to the Beavertown Electric Light Plant.
Yeah.
Another brother of yours, Charles, started what is now called the Charles T. Saylor shirt factory.
Yes.
And you yourself are a charter member of the Beavertown Historical Society.
Yes.
Mr. and Mrs. Bailey were very early members back in '74 when we began, but you were at our very first meeting. You were one of 6 other persons there, and I want to make that you were very important in your support and your early contributions to the Historical Society. So that's just a little aside there. But now getting back to you. When did you get married?
July the 11th, 1921.
And where did you get married?
Hagerstown, Maryland.
Hagerstown, Maryland. My goodness, how's come you went? Did you elope? Or?
Yeah, I guess.
You did. and you married Mr. Ralph Stumpf, who at the
Yes.
present time is in a convalescent home.
Yes.
Was this a whirlwind courtship, or how
No, 2 years.
you were engaged for 2 years,
Well, we
or
weren't engaged, but he went with, come to see.
courted with
Yeah,
you for 2 years? And you were living at home with your parents during this time?
With my sister and brother. My parents had passed away then.
Uh-huh. Now, there was a very important organization in town called the Patriotic Order Sons of America, or POS of A, and then there was a ladies' auxiliary of this called the POA,
Yes.
Patriotic Order of America.
Yes.
And you were a member of this POA.
Yeah.
Do you remember, was this before you were married?
Yes.
Could you share with us what you can recall of the POA? Did they meet in the POS of A hall?
Yes.
Was there an initiation to get in, secret passwords
No,
or anything?
I don't think so. Not that I can remember. Then we used to go to parades, marched in the parades.
Getting your regalia
Yeah.
and march in parades. And did you have to pay dues?
Yeah, I guess we did. I can't remember any more about that.
Fortunately, you had, or someone had, a picture of the POA, which,
I have a picture.
yes, you loaned it to us, and we have that picture in our historical booklet also. Dressed in your regalia, posing in front of what used to be the Charlie Kern's, the Kern Motor Car Company,
Yes.
which was right across the street from the POS of A hall. In any event, when you were a little girl here in Beavertown going to school, and when you were a young lady, what were some of the social activities that you could engage in, or that you did engage in?
There wasn't any. Much more than maybe they'd have some plays or something in the POS of A hall. And like suppers, chicken and waffle suppers we'd go to. But there weren't any activities more than in church then. On Children's Day we'd have programs, and for Christmas took part in those. And that's about all that we did. We had just stayed at home.
Well, how about like at school? What sort of children's games did you play at recess?
Oh, ball or tag up here at the bank, and there we had no much of a playground. We went out in the street there, and then we'd play ring tag or something like that.
Did you have recess in high school?
Yeah.
Recess?
Yeah, so we had the same as down the other schools.
Really? That's new to me. I mean, I know that in grade school we had recess, but when we went to high school, we had a full set of activities. So that's rather interesting. As a young person, besides the POA, were there other organizations available in town that you could join? Was there a thing? I know the boys had Boy Scouts.
Yeah, we had a Girl Scout organization. I belonged to that. Mrs. Max Kearns was our leader.
Peg Kearns.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, how old were you when you joined that?
Oh, about 14, I guess.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The Girl Scouts of America.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do as Girl Scouts?
Well, we had meetings, and we paid dues, and we had meetings, and then we had something going on over here in the hall one time. We had corn fodder and things like that, but I can't remember just what it was anymore.
Probably was a Halloween party of some kind.
I think something like that.
During World War I, from 1917, during 1917 and 1918, you would have been a young lady. Was there any organized efforts in town to support the boys overseas? Did they have any activities that you recall of in Beavertown, war drives or war bond drives or anything like that?
I think they had, but I just can't remember. But I know when the war was over, we had a parade to Middleburg. We marched to Middleburg. You remember Mrs. Nerfeast pushed a barrel?
Right, right.
We walked to Middleburg.
You mean the whole town, or so those who wanted to followed Mrs. Nerfeast in her barrel down to Middleburg? Yes, and Mr. Randall Hassinger was here last week, and he shared with us that there was a Republic truck that they hauled the timber from the pine swamp over to build the floor of the silk mill, and this truck was in that parade. And we do have a picture of the Republic truck that also was in this parade, all decorated up, and Mrs. Nerfeast celebrating the end of World War I.
Yeah.
I believe she had made a bet, or how did that
Yeah, she bet with somebody, but I don't know who it was anymore.
And she lost the bet, and so she had to roll the barrel to Middleburg.
I guess that's the way it was.
And of course, in our historical films that either Glace Arndt or Rudy Coleman loaned to us, we have Tiki Norman rolling the barrel after World War II to Middleburg.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently after the wars, it's important to roll the barrel. I don't know. I hope we don't have to roll the barrel anymore.